we must have been dreaming the same good thing.
Good evening, and welcome to Here's the Life with Zemrah. We're here at Intellectual Radio, 6 to 7, and joining me is my co-host, my better half,
Hey.
Ed, and we are so excited, and we mentioned it last week, that we have joining us none other than the Prince himself, Prince Asiel Ben Israel, and so happy that he's joining us this evening to talk about all are today, what direction we're going in, and what we need um, to make some changes in our life as a people, and really know that we got to come together. I was reading something today as I was journaling about life, because that's what our subject is about.
Mm-hmm.
Is talking about life and living life. That you have only one life, and it the right way, then that's all you need is that one life.
Once is enough.
Once is enough. So we're here, and again, Gail,
It's my pleasure,
and we're
Zemrah,
so
and
glad
Ed.
that
It's
you're
my
joining
divine
us.
pleasure.
Yeah, dynamic, awesome man, and one of the icons in Indigo's Black legacy. So we're going to start off by asking. I know that you were very, very honored, and Hermine couldn't help but acknowledge a man of so much power. So tell us how you felt when you found out, because she really had a surprise for you all when she introduced the book, and when you found out that you were part of such a awesome legacy. How did that really make you feel?
And I think my grandson summed it up for me. How many black people are in Chicago? I said about 1 million. He said 110 people in this book. That means you're 0.1% of the world. You greater than the 1% that Donald Trump and them talk about that run the world. So you come in with a new direction. I said, absolutely, son.
Yeah.
So I feel extraordinary, Zemrah and Ed, that Hermine thought enough of me to consider me out of the 1,500 uh, great Chicagoans that she had documented that had made an impact in this city and across this country and the world. Things that made me feel so great about it is that I've watched Hermine from the very beginning when she started Indigo magazine, when she was an educator in the city colleges, frustrated about the reality that the Chicago dailies were not reflecting African American communities properly.
Absolutely.
And so there were a group of us that decided we need to do it for ourselves. Took the initiative, left the educational system, and began to publish a journal, The Urban Greatness of the African in America, male and female, men and women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that really and truly, and that really sums it up, because it's some serious people in that book.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if people still need to make sure that they go to Indigo, www.indigo Black Legacy, and get that book. That is a book that I say that everybody should have on their table. The people that's in it really speaks for us.
All of the people that are in it, that you need to continue to expose the next generation, because the editor, Hermine, shared with me that one of her friends who was in the book bought a book for his daughter, and the daughter thought that Indigo magazine was published by the Tribune. Never knew
Yes.
that an African American woman, a great periodical such as Indigo, and that said a whole lot about what we as parents have done our children about those that had preceded them and laid the foundation. So I'm honored again.
I know. And then you're doing some things to help really push the book too.
And I think it's important that the school children, I'm trying to talk to all of the school children, first in the south suburbs where there are African American mayors and have educational departments. And then I'm taking the book to the National Conference of African American Mayors, close to 600 in America, so that they can see what Chicago has produced. It's a city that an African Haitian founded. Trump called it a S-hole place that didn't produce anybody. He don't know Haitian DuSable founded Chicago, Chicago River, and we are honored to be out of that hole. You see, most people don't understand bury something, grow. First, dig a hole and plant a seed.
Plant a seed and
Absolutely.
wait for some.
And wait for the growth to come up. Well, guess what came out of this S hole out of Chicago? Harold Washington,
Yes.
Obama, Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad.
Come on now.
I can go down the list that would take me about 25 minutes to tell you what came out of this hole called Chicago,
Yes.
where they had buried some black people, but look what has grown out of it. The first African American president of the United States of America has given Chicago the direction that raised up people that were lost and didn't have no identity out of Chicago. Jesse Jackson with Operation Push out of Chicago. Wherever they started in America, they had to come to Chicago to get greatness. So, Hermine, kudos to you for documenting came out of this living hole.
Yeah. Yeah. And she told the truth about everything too.
Yes.
Now, see, what do you think is holding us back from telling our story? Because
Fear.
because you have a story that's so deep and so long and so valuable that no one even knows about it.
Fear. Oh, and waiting for somebody else to do what we can do for ourselves. And I was reading an article about maybe 40 plus years ago about the health of black men, particularly in black women, that we were leading in the top 10 cancers in the world and in the United States particularly. Reading it, I said somebody needs to open up a restaurant and change that. Wife joined me in searching for a place to open up a restaurant that would feed people healthy food, because we made a decision to research why is it that African Americans are eating all of the worst food, because nobody gave us what the right foods were except Elijah Muhammad, who said eat to live. Thought that he was illiterate and didn't know what he was talking about. But he was a man inspired by the Creator. And his truth was, you got to learn how to eat to live. And so I went back and did further research and found out that in what the world calls the Bible, the book of Genesis, of what it was that the human created with the Spirit of God in them should consume, keep a healthy body. And I realized this is 1 in 29. You are to eat food that bears seed, and you have the herbs that grow in your body that will regenerate the vital organs of your body. And that was the beginning of the great soul vegetarian chain of restaurants across the world. For the world, a new way to look at not a diet, because in the word diet is the word die. So we introduce into the lexicon of words a live it, because what we're doing is eating for life. And so I want to thank for finding the spot where the original Soul Vegetarian Restaurant is to this very day. located at 205 East 75th Street. That's
That's what I'm
75th
talking
in Indiana. She and her great husband laid the foundation for building the interior of the restaurant that has maintained itself for close to 40 years. And we went across America, Atlanta, California, Texas, West Africa, and Ghana, and most of all in the Holy Land, Israel, opening up restaurants to give life back to God's people. Thank you.
Now, see, a lot of
And
people.
let me
Go
just
ahead.
see this. Ed keeps saying Nasi, which means prince in Hebrew. So people don't know what you're
Clearly, so
saying.
we say Nasi, it
We're
means
so
Prince.
used to that, yeah.
Well, you was going to say something.
No,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
an
I'm
actual
sorry.
question. I just wanted to
I was
define
going to
that.
say, when people want to know who is Prince Asiel, can you explain to them how far back you go and what moves you to be who you are today?
Yes, I can. Thank you for that question. Call him by his Hebrew name too. That's Asiel. You see, one of the things that made people in America not know who they were else gave us a name, a history. So we didn't see ourselves as sons and daughters of the living God. But when we awakened from this deep sleep that we had been in, we then realized that we were not just ordinary black people. It means he whom God has created in the image of God. Well, every time that someone calls my name, that means that the creation of God is being recognized, and I have a responsibility to make sure that my behavior and my actions tends to always lead people to a better way of talking, looking, and doing things. And you hear us say Zemrah. What does Zemrah mean?
I mean, song of praise.
So, what better name would you give this beautiful, talented musician? A name that sings praises to God. See, we think praises to God is a religious song. That's not true. It means that which inspires. That's why her theme song. But she also got a great song that was a major hit 2 decades ago, From Change to Change.
Oh, yes.
So I want you to know that we know been for a long time, and I intend to talk about it tonight too, hoping that she accepts the responsibility of the great musicians, Prince Amiel, to write a song for her reflecting the spirit of our people of forgiveness. And so we are taking the show on the road. And next week, I've got Bev Smith coming into Chicago from BET, first black newscasters in the city of Pittsburgh, for 13 years with a television show called Our Voices and on 36 radios. And she's launching a new radio program that will be in 50 markets. And so you're going to hear about all of these things during the course of this conversation.
Oh, wonderful.
And what does your name mean, Asiel?
Made of God.
Yes.
Man of God.
Man of
Yes.
And that's exactly what you are.
And so when you see, you're not just saying to a man, he has a responsibility, and he has done it, to distinguish himself as one of the highest quality character African men in the world, not just in America. I know him, and I love and respect him.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Right now, we're here at IntellectualRadio.com, and we're going to take a moment out and listen to a little bit more of Zemrah, Song of Praise, my CD. Irresistible Zemrah. It's not the pale moon that excites
delights me, that thrill and delights me. Oh, no, no, no. It's just the nearness of you. You. It isn't your sweet conversation that brings to me the sensation. Oh, no, 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 no. Nearness of you. Now when I'm in your arms and I feel you so close to me, oh, my world is true.
We are back and we're live on Facebook. What I want you to do is make sure that you go to Zemrah page and make a comment. And if you have any suggestions or any segments that you might want us to do, just let us know. Again, with Prince Asiel joining us, and so happy again that he's here. He is a man, truly a man of God, in every sense of the word, and always trying to give hope to our people, something he's always done and still doing. So, direction do you think and feel that all the sacrifices that you've made down the years and still making, what direction do you think that we are headed in as a people?
It was Dr. King's birthday.
Absolutely.
I will start off with what was one of the most inspirational things for me to begin my journey. See, when most people think about God, they think about religion.
Mhm.
Even though Dr. King was a religious man, he was not from a religious point of view. He was a very spiritual man to his God and his people. In 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee, was supporting the garbage workers. He had an epiphany that night, and I talked to those who was around him that night. He did not want to go to the rally because he was exhausted and tired. And so, but they called him and said, the church is full, Reverend, and you got to get over here. So he went over, and the spirit overtaken him that night, they tell me. And so when he gave the speech that God had allowed him to go to the mountaintop and look over and see the promised land, not get there with you. Some of other things that people remember have its place, but I'm really not worried anymore. God has allowed me to go to the mountaintop, look over and see the promised land. It really doesn't matter. Well, that was in April of 68. In May of 68, we landed back for the first time in 2,000 years, God returning to the Holy Land. We went in that land as descendants of the biblical Israelites, because those who have been researching the scriptures in the Bible, original people of the Bible were an African people, a black people. Up until 1863-64, Egypt were landlocked. When you begin to study the history of that area, you'll find that the true Israelites of the Bible, well, in my search for finding out where we came from in America, the majority of us, I discovered that we were the children of God, Hebrew Israelites. We were the scriptures spoke about us. And if you go into the book of Genesis, in the 15th chapter, starting at the 12th verse, it's a vision that Abraham had, of a surety that thy seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. And there in that land you will serve them, and they will afflict you years. And afterwards you would come out with great substance. And we saying the first great substance we came out with was we had our mind back and our spirit back to love one another and begin to build a world that would reflect who we are. So, having said that, motivated me, and in less than 2 years, I moved my family to Israel, two little girls and a pregnant wife, to begin a new journey. I was a very successful businessman in the city of Chicago, in a multi-million dollar business in the vending business. I was a member and still am a member of the great brotherhood of Alpha Phi Alpha and connected with the Pan-Hellenic Council, where my brothers were Kappas and Qs of integrity that had joined various brotherhoods, and we began to network with each other and support the vision. We began to do what Du Bois said, become the talent intent. We did what Booker T. Washington said. We dropped our buckets where we were and began to build. And instead of burn, baby, burn, we start building, brother, build. And so to this day, we lift up the great Muslim Brotherhood, the great Christian Brotherhood, Brotherhood, the great Pan African Sisterhood, and Christian Sisterhood, and Islamic Sisterhood, because we are one family and we will not let titles and labels. So I became part of a movement that went from Dakar, Senegal in the west, here in the east, and began to meet Africans across the continent who felt that they had a spiritual connection, building a new world for our people and for the whole planet. And we started a new direction called, we went out of here as the original African Hebrew Israelite nation of Jerusalem, and we realized that it was never black or white that exalts a people. And that's what we've been building on since then. This is not a black struggle or a white struggle, it's a righteous struggle.
I love that. Now, where do you see us you doing now as far as, still giving people hope and direction?
Well,
And I know you're working with a lot of the different mayors and
I'm doing more than that, Zemrah.
I know you're
First
national and
thing I did,
international.
made it my business to go find every male and female who wanted a better life for themselves, for their children, and for the people that they were living around. So I had the NAACP, the Urban League, the National Council of Churches. I went to all of these men and women, Democrats, the Republicans. It's not about labels. Dr. King said it's about content of character, not the color of the skin. And to build on that principle that Dr. King was lifting up about what we needed to do. And I've been committed to finding those righteous men and women across this planet. Difference. I went to South Africa, Mandela to Israel. I went to Atlanta, Georgia, and brought to Israel. I went to California and brought Barry White and Shirley Caesar and Andre Couch, the Neville brothers. We have been collecting God's people across this planet to say it's time for us to sit in a room, build, brother and sister build, so that we can restore the Edenic family, African family. See, Africa connotes a continent that was conquered by the Romans. the book of Genesis, it's called Eden or paradise. We are restoring the planet back to its state of a place for all human beings to live on, preserve, protect. And so the family that we are building is not on color, but on character and truth.
And just tell us a little bit about your experience and your opinion of the Holy Land.
Holy Land, most people think it's a religious place. The Holy Land is Northeast Africa, cradle of civilization. It is a place where God chose to create the new man and the new woman. If you go into the Bible, Zemrah, and begin to see, you find paradise. The second chapter, Genesis, it talks about 4 rivers ran out of the Garden of Eden. The Blue Nile, the White Nile. It was the Euphrates and the Tigris. Well, modern day shows you that's Iraq and Iran to the north. That's Egypt all the way down to Uganda in the south is the Nile River. I'm saying it flows over the White Nile to Central Africa, what is called DRC today. And you will go into those lands and find out that those people trace their roots back as that gave the world great civilization. But something happened. We let lying and cheating and hypocrisy to our character, and it began to degenerate the foundation of truth. See, a lie lives temporary, ever. That's why they say truth crushed to the earth. And again, and I'm saying to you listening and watching, up, you mighty people. Will what you know God has chosen you to do. And I'm not talking about religion. Men and women of goodwill around the world who are hearing the sound of my voice to know that we are building the kingdom of God on earth.
Yes, thank you for that.
So now, see, you trying to tell me that is not called the Middle East?
Middle East is a political term that the British developed when they were writing about World War II.
Right.
And the reason they did that, they didn't want the people to know that Israel was Northeast Africa. So the reporters developed that language to indicate, I would ask people, and they would say, huh? They don't know. It's Northeast Africa. It's not the Middle East. It's in Africa. That's why when you read your Bible about the birth of the Messiah that the world called Jesus, that we call Yeshua, and Father took him down to Egypt. And you cannot take a white baby to black Egypt and hide him. Logic begins to make people ask, well, then, what color was he? The book of Revelations, second chapter, third chapter, it talks about the messianic personage had hair like lamb's wool, whose feet were burnt like brass, eyes as red as fire. Well, you're describing that African male and female. And the redness of the eyes was the spirit of God coming out of them. And it wasn't bloodshot from alcohol. No, that's the confirmation, Asiel, of Africa being that man and the people of the Bible being that African people. Of the people in America are the descendants of those people brought over here as part of their chastisement. Document that we put out called Freedom and Serving Slavery. Every time it's time for black people to live America, they say, and do what? What place is better than this? And I tell them all the time, the place that you build for yourself. You living in somebody else's house, you don't have nothing to say. That's why Roy Moore down in Alabama said America was great when we were slaves.
Right.
And he's right. We were working for somebody else.
And their families were together.
And they had families that were together for us for nothing. So America couldn't be anything but great if you got free labor for 400 years from men, women, and children. But great.
That's right. Now, we don't always get into politics, but we got to hear what you think of what we have sitting in the White House right now. We got to hear that.
I think it's a gift from the God that we believe in. He ain't made no bones about who he is and what his job is. He's trying to say black people, brown people, are war zones. And if you don't like it, get out of here. What else would you tell somebody who is not taking care of themselves? The problem is that the smart black men and women in America won't let him go. He's trying to let them go. Remember, America started with white men and women in Europe, where they came from, to come over and start a new beginning. What's wrong with us building a new world? The talent, the energy, but most of all, the truth of how to do it. And I'm saying to the audience today to begin to look inside yourself and find the strength of those who disrespect you. We're not saying you need to leave America if you want to stay here. We're not saying you need to go anywhere. We're saying, but if you're unhappy, and still am, I wanted to go build something that I could say, this is what we have done in the name of the living God.
Prince Asiel telling it like it is.
Well, just go with the old saying, you cannot put new wine. You cannot build your house in somebody else's house. You can try. We've done that for 400 years, trying to. So what else would you do? And what the world is telling you to do. That's why our present president was a godsend. He's trying to tell you, do, because I'm not going to do anything for you. I have nothing for you. You will be forced to do for yourself. House in your own land.
You can't say it any plainer. Asiel started his campaign that said that Mexicans are drug dealers or rapists and murderers. And that black people could not live in the housing that his father and them had built. He forgot that in 1857, the Supreme Court of America, Roger B. Taney's decision of the Dred Scott decision, that there are no rights that a black man have that a white man is bound to respect. Well, Roy Moore brought it up again in the election in Alabama,
Right,
by telling the people America was great when blacks were slaves. And all they're simply saying is that we racist by ourselves. Yeah, we was in America and we helped America build it. But that's just like saying the job that you own, because you've been there 50 years, you own the company. The company paid you for those 50 years that you were there. You did not become a stockholder in the country. You don't own a share of America that you've carved out for yourself and built cities that you are maintaining. We had 2 black downtown Chicago. And you had the Burrell Advertising Company. Both of those buildings are now gone. Any sign that they ever existed now. You don't see any signs lifting up DuSable as the founder of Chicago. Black children grow up and don't know who founded Chicago. Yet, founded Chicago, Donald Trump say come from an S-hole country. Mind would you have to find a city that America calls the number 2 city in America? You couldn't be an S-hole except you mean a saint hole that they came out of. The saints of God have built Chicago and maintained it to this very day.
People that you've taken to Israel, and to my is the heart chakra really of the earth. What feelings do they have when they go there?
They are born again. I took Winnie Mandela to Israel. Me, after the first night, I haven't had a night's sleep. I was 18 years old when I slept all night. And she was 66 at that time. She said in an open speech that you can go on Facebook or on YouTube and Google Winnie Mandela in Israel, and you will hear her say that what she witnessed with the Africans from America for the beginning of the new world. Mandela about a month ago said, Prince, continue doing what you're doing and don't be disappointed. I've ever taken there. Birth and a recycling of their thinking. It's not a white people's land. It's not a black people's land. The spirit of the living God reigns and is available to all those who are seeking truth.
No, when I lived there for 2 years, it was one of the best experiences that I ever caught me at a time where I really needed it. It lifted my spirit. And when you step in the land, in the Holy Land, you know that you've to go there. You were really and truly in heaven. It was a wonderful experience.
The land is part of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they once said that no army can hold Israel.
Right.
For military conquest.
Not by power, not by might, but by my spirit, Lord. And we're not talking religion when we say these words. We're talking about an invisible energy that keeps the sun in the sky at night and keeps the stars burning every night.
Better known as dark matter.
Yes.
That's the spirit. We're here at Intellectual Radio. Zemrah here is the Life with Zemrah, and my co-host Ed, and we have joining us this evening is Prince Asiel Ben Israel. We're going to hear a little bit more from Zemrah's Irresistible Zemrah. By the way, I am still working on my Love is Possible CD coming out hopefully soon. I hear the sax man calling. I hear the sax man blowing. All over this town. Blow, blow. Yeah. Listen to the sax man just take you away. Listen to the sax man blowing. Blow, 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 blow. Ooh, have mercy. I hear the sax man coming. I hear the sax man blowing. Blah, 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 blah. All over this town. Come on now. Saxman comes just once in a while. Saxman turns this town upside down. Listen to the sax man play. Cause sax man plays all over this town. Sax man turns the town. We are back and talking about one spirit. While we're talking about spirit, that's exactly the song that I wanted to play. One of my originals from Irresistible Zemrah, Sax Man. We're here with Prince Asiel sharing some great thoughts, some great words of wisdom he's a man of wisdom, and hope that we can make it, that we keep our heads lifted and know that we can have some direction. If one of the things that we've got to do as a people is to have more understanding and to come together. And a little music and let him tell you a little bit about what he's working on for me, Zemrah, and just tell us a little bit some of your idea of, since this is a year of powerful women, and some of your idea. We have a powerful woman in here now that helps to make all this possible. She brought this opportunity for me, Wanda Bolton, and we're so happy about that as well. So we thank her for giving me that opportunity to and present Here's to Life with Zemrah.
Well, thank you for presenting Zemrah to us and the world, for having the vision to create this internet communication system so that we can talk to the world. So kudos to both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Vision. And it's just like that, Earl, that when I decided that I didn't want to depend on any other man to make my life better, I decided that I wanted me to make my life better inside of me, and began to see what energy had the Creator created in me that would make me be capable of doing what other men who have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 feet, 2 legs. And I realized that the God in me was as great as anybody else's God in them. It says if it tends to lean towards what is right and true. And so I began to develop, to know that it's not an individual communication system that you've established here, beginning of a worldwide network of independent entrepreneurs to communicate truth to the people. This radio station, the intellectual radio, powerful that is.
Mm-hmm.
Intellect in Hebrew is maskil, and maskil means he that have the ability to create. Earl, and you are bringing people around you to sustain the creation that you built. So I want you to know that you're one of those powerful men that, with support, it ain't nothing that you can't do. And I want to sign up as part of your team to support you.
We thank you for that, Prince.
You and Wanda for what y'all doing. Now, getting back to Zemrah and what it is that we're doing. What we are doing is when the women of Alabama, the African American woman of Alabama, the challenge or not they would come out to make sure that a racist Alabama running for the Senate would not be able to say black people did not care about who got elected. We know that to win all for every single problem, so that we are not asleep. Those black women came out 98% out
In our community than ever.
than Obama when he was running for president. The results of it. Then we met a great mayor in the suburban cities in Chicago, female mayor, who is president of the National Council of Black Women Mayors. Her to Bev Smith, who was 13 years on BET in 35 cities. Now she's going to go to 50. And I talked to her about for forgiveness, heal, first of all, the black woman. We seem to have lost our way towards each other and didn't know how to love each other. One of the things I discovered about 12 or 13 years ago was that I didn't really understand the depth of the word rib that God used in the creation of the woman. But if we stop and think about what cage do for the human body, it protects your heart, your lungs, your vital organs, your kidneys, and your liver, your life source. When you don't have a spiritual woman next to you, you have no protection against the evils. But a spiritual woman is your protection because she is right there to help you when you get weak and carry on. That's why you see so many black women stay with men who have fallen of sex or money or alcohol or drugs severe. The mothers and grandmothers that have kept us alive and the wives and the sisters that have community alive is unprecedented. And so about 12 years ago, I had an epiphany called the Confession of Adam and the Acquittal of Eve. That we've been blaming women for 6,000 years out of paradise. But among deeper introspection, I realized that it was self deception because the man was a God and had the ability to resist evil. God, you have the right to choose good or evil. It was evil. The man has been fallen since. So I decided I wanted to get back to truth as my foundation. And everything that I've done has leaned itself towards that God is with me. 164 years in prison, trial in the history of the DC Circuit. My jury was out over 54 days. And when they came back after destroying the jury, my case was overturned in days. And I walked out of that prison a free man, proving that God was with the black man in America that stood for righteousness and truth.
Have mercy.
Hello. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That does.
That deserves a hand.
Yes.
We need to tell our story. We
Yeah.
actually really, really do. There's so much going on in our community and our culture that we just don't know about. So, like Nasi said, out of fear, and tell our story
Yes.
because we think we need to impress somebody,
Right.
anyone but ourselves.
That's right. That's right. Well, we are running short of time. Again, we're so glad that Prince joined us. I want you to make sure that you like me on Facebook. We still have a couple of minutes that we can, have some conclusion, a few more words. But make sure that you like me on Facebook. If you have any suggestions about any shows that you'd like for us to do, I'm really, really looking at doing some wonderful shows. Matter of fact, next week we have joining us is Audrey K from the Audrey K Show, and she has a dream series that she wants to share with us. So we're looking very, very forward to that. And we want to thank, and we should have done that in the beginning, but we definitely want to thank Dr. Stephanie Wilson Coleman for joining us last week, talking about money, money, money. And we are definitely bringing her back again because we got a great, great response on that. So we're really wanting to broaden our show, talk about some great things. I have some great ideas that I want to share with you. So again, you're joining Here's the Life with Zemrah and Ed as my co-host. So we're going to hear one more song by myself, and then we're going to come back with some closing words. And we have up next Tony Duncan with Truth Seekers.
Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the garden is high. Your daddy's rich and your mommy, she's so fine. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing, then you will spread your wings and you'll take to the sky. But until that morning comes, there is nothing to trouble you with mommy and daddy standing by. Summertime and your living's made comfortable. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high, high, high. Oh, daddy's rich and your mommy, she's so fine. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings you're gonna rise up singing, then you will spread your wings and you'll take to the sky. But until that morning comes, there is nothing gonna trouble you with mommy and daddy standing by. Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Your daddy's rich.
Okay, you're back with Here's the Life with Zemrah, and I got to get this quote right that I was saying earlier. That was a quote from Joe E. Lee, and I'm just going to say it. You only live once. Right? Once is enough. That because that's the truth. Like my theme song, of course, is Here's the Life, and all you give is all you get, so give it all you got. But we also say that I got it right this
Well, I
time.
still want to take issue with that
Okay.
because more than once.
Okay.
You live once in this life, on this level, on this plane. You only live once.
And we know
But
you
life
go
does
to
not
Mars.
end. When you leave here, you go to another place. So your life does never end. It has no beginning, it has no end. You should have no fear of death, because there is no death.
It's a whole nother subject we can talk about.
Well, I've been there, so.
Yeah. Well, that's a good subject we can talk about, even maybe through the Dream series when Audrey comes, because I know you were talking to her about something, and she was saying something regarding that. Yeah, so maybe we can talk about that. So we have only a couple of minutes left before Truth Seekers comes on. Tony Duncan, who always brings the truth to you. So, in closing, what would you leave us with, Prince? What we need to do to get it right this time, for real.
Yes. Most black people that learn how to read and write think they don't need leadership. It all the time going through the black community. Who do I trust? Who can we depend on? The first thing is go to the mirror and ask yourself, can you trust the person that you're looking at in the mirror? Because people say, I'm not going to drink no more. And that same person will be drunk the next morning looking in the mirror. I'm going to quit smoking. Well, if you can't handle the little things that you choose to do, how are you going to handle the big things that people depend on you to do? And I'm saying what I leave everybody with today, neck up from the neck up with yourself. God outside of you, look for the God inside of you. See, I know that the only way Earl did what he did is he went inside himself and said, I can do it. And guess what? We here witnessing it. Nobody else but you did it. Well, who was the creator? You. You and those that joined you who believed that you could do it made you capable of maintaining and sustaining. Zemrah and Ed, because they were there with me in the beginning, and I told them on the ride out here, the kingdom, they left stupidity and people who were not doing what they were supposed to do. And I see them coming back to continue. And Ed just said it, because he's absolutely right. There's death in a God that don't let the sun burn out, don't let the moon stop shining, all out the sky. But he gonna have a creation like us, and we gonna die? No way, partner. That's what the brother said 1,000 years ago. Life that you may have it more abundantly. The things I say are truth, and the words I speak are spirit, and they are life. Is live life.
That's right. And that's why I always say, and my philosophy is, age is nothing but a number.
Tell them, baby.
As long as you can walk, talk, and breathe, you keep it moving. There is no such thing. It's not following your dreams, making your dreams come true. You just have to go ahead on and do it and let your spirit guide you, and you can do whatever you want to do.
Because time is irrelevant.
That's right. You just make it happen. Just as I say, just keep it moving. You're here at IntellectualRadio.com, joining Ed and myself, and this evening, Prince Asiel. We thank you for joining us this evening. And we're here every Tuesday, 6 to 7. We say, live life. All you give is all you get. You got. Good evening and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
I got it right this time. This time I got it right.